drastically, or can you? And because I know in London, you used to be able to like buy a place for, let's say, £700,000 in central London on a great street, and you could put a couple 100,000 in, and then you can sell it for 2 million. Are we still seeing that? And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. Look, with London, if you can add square foot to the property, you're going to make a return, because your building costs, well, I'm going to reference West London because that's
Yes.
where I was a specialist. If
Yeah.
your building costs was about £400 a square foot, your sale value is around £1,000 a square foot. So there's
Wow.
always margin. So when you buy real estate in the UK, provided you can add square foot, you're going to see a healthy exit.
Wow.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. And what are the major differences between the UK property market and the South African property market?
I think it's volume. I just think it's
Yeah.
volume based. The amount of properties that change hands in London. I always say this to everyone. If you consider your parents and their home and how many years they've probably lived in their home, you probably find that it's 20 years, in the same home. Where in London, it's like a 5-year sort of change of hands. And
Sure.
that's why I think that it's just volume based.
Yeah.
That was my experience, and talking to friends and family. It's just, things just happen so much quicker. You buy your first apartment in London, one bed, you keep it for 5 years and you sell it. And the
Yes.
cycle just keeps going on as your family grows. But it's a very fast-paced real estate market, that's for sure.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit more about your work with South Africans looking to invest in the UK, and what areas of the UK are you advising your South African clients to invest in at the moment?
Sure. So, historically, I've advised South Africans buying in the UK. That was, the main role that I played, and built up a successful business doing that. What I realized over time is that more and more British clients would, be envious of the fact that I was raised and brought up in Cape Town, and
Yes.
all of them would say the same thing. Cape Town, amazing, been there, the food, the weather. And so I took advantage of that, and I started helping
Amazing.
that British audience realize that I'm South African, I'm back here, grew up here, know these streets well, and so I'm now advising a lot of British buyers buy here successfully and make good investments.
Wow. And
The appetite for investment is, I would say, lifestyle property. They're looking for something that they can enjoy, use on holiday, and sort of perhaps create a bit of an Airbnb income stream with that property when they're not using it.
Amazing. This podcast is sponsored by Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys have been my number one supporter since the first day that I started in the real estate industry. They've always been there for my clients when critical questions around the transfer of a property have come up. And I'm super grateful to them for sponsoring this podcast. If you are looking for a transferring attorney on your next sale, please consider Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. They won't let you down. So, thanks again to Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys for sponsoring the podcast. And, it wouldn't be possible without them. And how hard is it to make it in the real estate industry in the UK? I know you worked there for quite a long time. So, building your network and things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, coming from having nothing and no network in that place, it must have been. What was your strategy? How did you go about that?
So, look, it's an agency in the UK versus South Africa is just so different, Josh. It's very much you work in a corporate environment. The corporate companies that you work for have got incredible databases built over, decades and decades and decades. So you get a patch and you're able to climb into those databases.
Yeah.
You farm no different, I think.
Yeah,
you hit the phone. You hit the phone hard. The difference maybe is that it's maybe a little bit longer hours, I would think.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't think there's a huge difference. It's still old-fashioned agency. You're still going to be on the phone, and the more calls you make, the more doors are going to open up and the more sales you're going to make. So
Yes.
for me, it was probably just getting to my meetings in the icy cold.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest challenge.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like a proper experience
It was.
working over there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it gave you a great foundation
Absolutely.
in the real estate, in the industry.
Yeah.
And how would you describe the current real estate market in Cape Town, particularly for obviously you said there's quite an appetite.
Yeah.
So do you think there's more international people coming into Cape Town and buying up properties? And do you think that's going to increase in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can see the level of registrations with our business now that Cape Town as a city is definitely on the global map. And we're seeing a huge amount, and not only British buyers, but we're getting inquiries from, from French, from Italians, from Germans. And it's interesting how they're finding us. I guess kudos to our marketing team. But there's definitely appetite here. And they're seeing value for money. Cape Town is still a very undervalued city compared to other cities around the world.
Yes.
So you can buy something really nice here with your sterling or your euros or your dollar.
Yeah.
And I think there's huge appetite,
Amazing.
I don't think it's going to change. I think it's just going to continue. We've been voted the second best city in the world to live recently, so I guess there's reasons for that, right?
There is the exchange rate as well, which is helping them. They're getting so much. You can probably get maybe a little shoebox in London for what you can buy, a little villa. A garage in London, and you can maybe get a nice moderate villa, humble villa in Camps Bay or somewhere.
Yeah,
for the same price.
And I think that's exactly it. I think a lot of foreigners are coming here on holiday, or at least for our clients, which are predominantly British, they're coming on holiday. They're realizing what great value they can get here and the lifestyle. And I definitely don't think they're doing it for any kind of wealth creation, but more just for leisure and enjoyment. And parking a bit of cash offshore, I guess, in a different country. So
for sure. And how are you finding working on that specific end of the deal? Because maybe when you were working as an agent in the UK, you're more used to working as the listing agent. Now, obviously, with foreigners coming in, how's that aspect of it working for you? And are you finding it a bit challenging? Obviously having to work with other agents and the culture in South Africa where you protect your commission and things like that.
I'll tell you one thing that's very refreshing, is that I think the quality of estate agents in South Africa are great, and I think it's partly because it's a regulated industry. It's not regulated in the UK. Anybody can be an estate agent. You don't need to be registered to any board or have any license to be able to trade as an estate agent. Okay?
Sure.
So for me, in my experience, it's been very refreshing. Agents here operate with a lot of integrity, and they definitely, they're keen to do business as well, which is great.
Yes.
So for me, I find it very refreshing. Secondly, in the UK, buying real estate in the UK is the most stressful thing for anybody because it's a bidding market.
Yeah.
A deal is not done until contracts have exchanged. Where my British clients are loving the system in South Africa because once you sign a deal and there's and there's no subject tos, the deal is done.
Yeah.
And it kind of it's just so refreshing. It's less stressful, that I can say. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So you prefer it here than over
do.
there.
I do. Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, if I can give you a little example. When you get an offer in the UK on a property, that is considered under offer, right? The seller is still entitled to accept any offers from anybody. And that's where the famous word gazump came into play. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
Never heard that
It's a
before.
British term. It's a swear word, okay? But unfortunately, it's a term used when someone comes and bids more on a property that is under offer. And unfortunately, the seller decides to run with the higher offer.
Sure.
So it's a very, very stressful environment to work in because until contracts have exchanged, you're exposed. And any agent can present a seller with an offer during that period.
And are there a lot of like open mandates sort of thing? So like a lot of different agencies listing the same property, so you kind of don't know when somebody's going to come and blindside you with another offer.
Pretty much.
Yo,
you can go
scary.
knock on someone's door today, and if it's an open mandate, you can present them an offer, and you can gazump someone.
Sure.
So it's always, for me, it was stressful. It was really
the deal's
stressful.
really not done until the deal's
I promise you.
Deal's done.
To all the solicitors exchange contracts, you are exposed, and you will lose that deal.
Wow.
So yeah, you always got your boxing gloves on.